Hello and welcome to the Red 78, a Munster podcast for Munster fans. My name is Rory O'Hagan from Off the Ball, joined by Munster legends Alan Quinlan and Fiona Hayes to look back at a frustrating night for Munster as they let a lead slip against Glasgow to lose over in Scotland. And we look ahead to what is now a huge game against Connacht this coming Saturday. So that's all to come on this episode of the Red 78. Fiona, Quinny, absolutely fantastic to see you guys as always. How are you?
Good, good. Still disappointed over that
Yeah,
match at
yeah,
the
yeah.
weekend. It was really frustrating, and the women I think could have beaten France as well. So there was two, I suppose, frustrating games. But other than that, good. Ready for the week ahead.
Quinny, how are you, sir?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, yeah. Frustrating one, as Fiona said. I'm sure any of the Munster fans watching, would have been frustrated. One, we didn't probably, well, I didn't expect them to win. It was always going to be a difficult situation,
Mm.
but difficult game. But I think in the balance of watching it back a couple of times and looking at it again. It was one that was let slip away. There was a real opportunity there. But anyway, that's life. They've got to dust themselves down this week for a unique experience going to McHale
Mm.
Park against Connacht.
Yeah, we'll get into the weeds of all that in just a little bit. First off, Fiona, some comments reaching us today.
Yeah, so a few comments coming in there. So Ryan Mason said, "Are the players not listening to Leamy's coaching anymore? For the last year, the defending has been a joke. Can't be injuries as they had several lads missing this time last year as well. Nothing has changed. In fact, gotten worse." John, a frustrating game in Scotland. Munster really should have won and only have themselves to blame. Need a big performance now against Connacht. That URC table is tight and there's no room for error. Stephen has Munster seemed like they had that in the bag and let it slip. Plenty of chances in the first half and they didn't take. And Brian also has looking forward to seeing the internationals back this weekend and great to see the injury list decreasing. How big a factor is playing the game in McHale Park likely to be?
We'll get into that in just a little bit, but we're going to look back though at that defeat to Glasgow. And Quinny, what was the most frustrating thing for you when you were watching this game from a Munster perspective?
The most frustrating thing for me was the first two tries that Munster conceded. Um, they were long range tries. They were brilliantly executed in the end by George Horn scored the first one, Kyle Steyn scored the second one. But they're two defensive mistakes. And if you're playing a side as good as Glasgow, albeit they're missing the bulk of their internationals, they had some of their Six Nations players on the bench, which obviously helped them as well towards the end of the game. But I think the first two tries, very frustrating. Paddy Patterson shoots out of the line. The enthusiasm and all that stuff is great, but you're creating that space. You're making it easier for the attacking player to uh, to exploit that gap that you've left in your defensive line. So that's a big mistake. I'm sure he knows afterwards. I'm sure that they've looked at it during the week and they realised that that was a mistake. The second try that Kyle Steyn scores, it's another defensive error. Alex Nankerville shoots out of the line again, and he makes life really difficult for um, for Tom Farrell and the rest of the defenders. And Kyle Steyn is a very quick player. He's a great broken field runner, and when he takes off, um, he obviously went all the way and scored a try. So I think they're two soft tries.
Hmm.
Munster were managing the territory and possession quite well, and actually, the performance was really, really good from them. All the stuff we spoke about against Edinburgh previous couple of weeks ago, there was a reaction. It was a much more aggressive, intense, sharp, uh, high work rate performance from Munster. But some of the silly errors and mistakes again. Look, you can talk about these, Rory, and say that you learn from them, but some of them are down just to poor decisions and reading of the game, and just good teams always make the simple decisions and good decisions under pressure, whether that's making a carry and staying on your feet for that extra second, whether it's making a kick up along the touchline, a grubber kick, as opposed to getting tackled into touch. Small little things like that, knowing your detail in the line out. I think there's a line out there, Munster 25-14 up, shortly after Sean O'Brien scores. Um, they have a line out just around the halfway line or inside the Glasgow halves or inside their own half. There's a mislift in the line-out. Ball goes over the back, and it's the start of all that turnaround for Glasgow, where they score 2 tries and they win the game. So some of that game management, the discipline. There's 3 or 4 penalties towards the end of the game, which are absolute shockers, really, and they just allowed Glasgow win the game, really. And I think that's the frustrating part when you do so many good things. Okay, you have to try and learn from these things going forward, but some of the decisions were really poor from some of the players after working their socks off. So I'm being probably overcritical there, but that's the brass tacks of what will be going on in a review when you look at this stuff on Monday morning as players, and you say, look, here's 2 tries that we were soft, both of them are inside your own half, essentially. In the Glasgow half where the attack starts, there's, for the first try, loads of offloads and loads of lovely play from Glasgow, and it's a magnificent try to see. But I always go back and you look at how did this originate? And Paddy Patterson, who played really well, he had a brilliant game, to be fair to him. It's just that one decision you decide to shoot out of the line. And I know you're trying to stop a very dangerous attacking team from getting momentum and getting time on the ball, because Glasgow's attack is very good. But it's very blatantly obvious to me that you stay connected there. There's enough of Munster players there in that defensive line. And okay, you might have to soak a tackle a little bit, but you're not scoring a try off that. And they made it quite soft, and that was exploited by Glasgow. And again, the Kyle Steyn one, Alex Nankivell, who had a super game as well. This is the frustrating part. Just stay connected. I know you want to get line speed, but if one player decides to shoot like that, you've got to get man and ball. And if not, you've got to move forward together as a group. So they're the frustrating parts, the 2 tries, the lost line out, and the penalties. And I think they're all in your own control. So they're not pieces of bad luck or, brilliance out of the opposition. The brilliance out of the opposition comes from giving them those opportunities. And they hurt Munster there. So that's the frustrating. The penalties are quite silly. Again, people will say, well, I was great at giving away penalties myself, and that's fair enough. But it's our job now to call this out and say it. And I think the coaches will be saying it. Sometimes you're just better off not doing that counter ruck that John Ryan does in the build up to the, they take a quick penalty, they go, it's carnage. Fagerson ends up scoring the winning try for them. So look, there'll be certainly a bit of frustration there, but we have to say the effort and the work rate and the majority of that performance was like chalk and cheese from what we saw against Edinburgh a few weeks ago. Turnovers lost in the game were 10 for Munster. They were in the 20s against Edinburgh, so turning the ball over really silly. Post-contact meters, 404 meters from Munster. So they're aggressive, much more aggressive in their carries. They're much more efficient. Could they be a little bit better in that body position to carry, stay on their feet for a second or two? Did they give a few soft turnovers? Most probably. They had a very strong wind in the second half, and they didn't manage it. Ben O'Connor runs back at one stage out of his own 22, decides to pin the ears back, gets tackled easily. It's a penalty. And it's one of those ones where you're just saying, Ben, kick the ball long. You have a strong wind. You're 11 points up. Don't mess around in your own half. You have a very strong breeze with you. On the back of that, Glasgow get a penalty. They missed touch. And Adam Hastings, I think, 3 times. So they literally were saying to Munster, we're off colour here. There's a game here for you to win. And unfortunately, Munster didn't take it, that opportunity after doing so many good things well. So loads of positives to take out of it. As I said, it's our job to try. You asked me the question why and what frustrated me. They're the things that frustrated me. Loads of positives, the line out wobbled a little bit, a couple. By and large, it was efficient, but that last line out, the scrum, 6 from 6 in the scrum, you had 8 scrum penalties against Edinburgh, so massive improvement. And that was, it even makes it more frustrating going back to that Edinburgh game. Again, 29 missed tackles, it's too high. So you've got to get those things down. And these are the things that you've got to look for in the next couple of weeks. Going to McHale Park against Connacht, going to La Rochelle the week after, playing the Bulls in Thomond Park, going away to Cardiff. The good news for Munster, obviously, and we'll talk about it, is there's players coming back and it strengthens their hand massively. Are they going to be match fit? The injured players coming back, that's the challenge for them. The internationals, you would hope, will be chomping at the bit. But again, you always talk about learning from your mistakes, but that was to lose the game by 3 points. At one point, you're thinking, Jesus, Munster can get a bonus point win here after Sean O'Brien's try. Kick on, be brave. And they were brave, to be fair. They were really brave in the way they played. But again, they're the frustrations that would be there.
Yeah, plenty of frustrations from Munster, Fiona, but Quinny was kind of outlining some of the positives there. What were the positives you took from the performance?
Yeah, look, I thought there was some individual brilliant games as well. First of all, obviously the scrum was a huge issue. We spoke about that, and 6 from 6. I thought they tightened that up nicely. The bench came on, the same thing. They weren't, you weren't looking at the bench going, oh, we're here, we're in trouble now, it's scrum time. They came up and tightened that. So that's a really good thing. They've obviously looked at themselves on that from that stage and been able to fix that, because Glasgow have a strong front row, have a strong pack, even when the internationals are away. But just, as I said, individual, Sean O'Brien had a brilliant game, I thought. Very harsh for him to be on the losing side with how he performed. Coombs was unbelievable. I thought his work rate. Every time I watch him lately, people before might question his work rate sometimes, or even not his work rate, even he looks tired, people would say at times. I just think he is on fire at the minute in how he's going about his business throughout the pitch. I think he beat 8 defenders, just seemed to be everywhere, attack and defence. So there was some good moments. Tony Butler, the 10 coming in, it changed the game actually when he went off injured. I thought there was a change there. Tony, we haven't seen a lot of him. We've seen him finish out a couple of games. So for him to come on, I thought he started really strong. There's green shoots there. He had a good game control in the pack. I thought his kicking game was excellent. I was worried for Wood. I thought he might have to come on to 61 minutes, but they obviously didn't put him under that severe pressure, and we saw a Scannell come in and go into that position. But look, I thought there was some individual performances. The grit, the hard work was there. It's just as Quinny said, it's the frustration around the defence, that system, leaving the system and not being able to kill man and ball. And as well, Ruairi, he mentioned the Quinny, but I was absolutely pulling my hair out watching the TV as a coach. The biggest thing that I'd look at on with my players and they have to do is just work hard. When you're hit and you're hit to the ground, is work hard on that ground. And there was far too many players that just got hit and flopped into that contact area. So that would be somewhere else. But look, on the positives, as I said, I thought the individuals were really good. There were some big performances. And Glasgow, yes, the defence was not great at times, but there were times in the game where they really defended, especially early doors. Glasgow held out that pressure and just really went after them. So it was good to see them scoring tries as well. But obviously you're frustrated with the things that went wrong, but certainly on the back of the previous performance, there's been a lot of hard work done in certain areas, and we saw it. It just didn't click in the end of that game. And I suppose the bench in particular didn't make the same impact as I thought that the Glasgow bench did.
When you say players aren't working hard enough after being hit, Fiona, is that just because of tiredness? What is it?
It's not. It's just how you enter the contact area. Sometimes you might, instead of, I feel like sometimes when you're hitting that contact area, right, you're obviously, the first thing is you're looking for an offload, or you're trying to free your hands. That would be something you'd look at. But once you know you're going to hit the ground, it's a big thing in I suppose everyone's coaching. Once you know you're going to hit the ground, you now have to think about how you fall to get the ball as far away from contact, because there's always, especially at that high level, there's always going to be poachers already there and waiting. So how you fall and how you work on the ground for a few seconds before you support comes is absolutely huge. And there was far too many turnovers, especially I think from the backfield when they were coming on and they were hit. Yes, the hits were huge but when they hit the ground, it was just that ball placement waiting for the players to come, and that any good poacher is going to immediately jump on that. So I think there was a lack of work rate at times in that area, which can be improved. It's just probably improving when you know you're falling. How do you get that ball away and keep the ball safe? And B, I suppose you've just got to get there and keep working your body as much as you can.